This is another day God has given us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome TJKshares, TJK One-on-One. Today we are blessed yet with another change maker, transformational person who's done amazing work in the world. We are going to hear about her journey from her childhood to her practicing psychologist to founding a heaven for girls in the hills of Kabale, southwestern Uganda. That's the place we call home. I call home. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ruth Ndyabahika. Please tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Hi, Jackson, and hi, all the viewers here. Let me just start by saying how happy I am. Like, so excited to be on this TJK show. I've been watching it since you started. Yeah, I was, I think, one of your first subscribers. So when you invited me, I felt very, very honored. And also, I'm sure as we go along, people will hear about why I admire you so much and how we got to meet. But yes, thank you for having me here. So I'm Ruth Ndyabahika, like Jackson said. Right now I'm sitting in my dining room, our dining room. It's actually the Grace Villa dining room in the hills of Kabale, Uganda, in East Africa.
Yes.
So my middle name is Kendeje, which is my own personal name. Just so you know, it means of an airplane. My mom and my dad are both Reverend Canons. My dad is the late Professor Reverend Canon James Ndyabahika. He was a professor and a priest. And my mom is Reverend Canon Grace Nyonyozi Ndyabahika. They're both from here in Uganda. My dad from a place called Kanungu, which is near Queen Elizabeth National Park. And then my mom is from right here in Kanungu, Jackson. Sorry, I should say near Queen Elizabeth National Park and Nyaka, where Jackson's schools are and all his programs. Then my mom is from here in Kabale, where I am, in a place called Chanamira. And so when my mom was expecting me, then Bishop Festo Chivenjere got them a scholarship to go to Trinity in Chicago, Trinity College. My mom didn't want to go because, you know, she was very pregnant. And at that point, she would rather be with her sisters and her mom. And here they were sending her to a place where she knew nothing about. She had never been to the US. She had never been out of the country. And she went apparently very miserable on the plane. But my grandmother, because it was an epic occurrence, named me of an airplane. Sometimes I say I was born in a plane, but it's not true. So thus began my life in Chicago. And then we were there. I don't remember much about that. But then we moved to Scotland again for education, where my dad and mom were in Aberdeen University. So that's what I remember, because that's where I started my school, kindergarten and first grade, I think second grade or something like that. So I have a big brother named Apollo and a baby sister named Rachel. Yeah. So just so you know, I think the life of a reverend is pretty much like an army life. Like, yes. You know, where you are at the mercy of the bishop, you know, where they send you is where you go. And you move quite a bit. So my parents decided to always stay together with us. Some people just put this family in one nice, stationary, safe place and for stability. And then when they move them, they go and keep coming back to family for weekends. But my parents, we are a very close-knit family. So my dad took us everywhere. And because of that, I ended up in 7 primary schools and 4 high schools. But what that also did is it made us even closer as a family. So I think that's pretty much my history. I'm a child psychologist by profession. I studied at Northeastern University in Massachusetts and at Wheelock College, also in Massachusetts.
So very appropriate to be interviewing you while I'm at Harvard in Cambridge in your stomping grounds. I never knew you went.
Actually, my first home was there.
Wow.
Probably near you.
No,
well, my first US home. Yeah.
I have good memories of this Boston area, mainly because of you and Apollo. And we'll talk about that later when we had a child stay here for many years. And when I went to launch the book, a school for my village, and we traveled all around this area, New England, promoting the books. Recently, actually, I went back to Newton Library, where we had one of the readings.
Oh.
Ruth, why did you choose to study psychology?
I like kids. Well, it's not just the aspect of psychology, but the aspect of it being targeted towards children. So I like children very much. I don't think teaching would have been for me because, well, no, thank you. I admire teachers and greatly respect them for huge reasons. And one of the reasons is why I'm not a teacher. I originally thought law. Actually, I first went to school for law and then found out that it was not also cut for me. So I love children. I've always, when I say I always babysat, which might sound simple, but for real, all the siblings, like my baby sister, all the cousins, everyone was brought to me to be looked after at some point. I remember when I was younger in high school, I started a Sunday school at All Saints Kampala. It used to exist when I was younger. Then somehow through the years, it kind of faded away. And in high school, I decided to start it again and really found myself really loving working with children. Uganda is beautiful and amazing, but it's been through many tough periods.
Yes.
And those tough periods affected people of all ages. And I remember one of my cousins was affected psychologically. And I remember thinking, I would want to be able to actually be of help in some sort of way of people who are going through post-war trauma, which is not even a thing that people think about, here. Well, people do, but it's not, well, I don't know, I'm not going to go much into it, but psychology wasn't really embraced when we were growing up in the region. So, while another number 3 of why I went into child psychology, when I just started college, which like law, as I had said, pre-law, I was thinking of law, I babysat to pay my school fees. So my tuition was coming from babysitting. And again, I really loved being around the kids I babysat, and I remember at one point thinking, this is my career, I've made it in life. Because it pays well and I enjoyed it. But yes, I think those are the 3 reasons why I went into child psychology.
You practiced right here in the Boston area in Massachusetts. Then you decided you were going to start a sanctuary for girls called Grace Vera.
Yes.
How the birth of Grace Vera come into your mind, and what steps do you take to establish it?
Yes, I'll start by saying the name. Grace is my mom's name, and she's my hero, my mentor. She's everything to us. And her story has always inspired, even as her own child, she inspires me because she was one of the 3 first women to be ordained as Anglican priests in Africa, for the Anglican Church in Africa, which was fantastic. Again, the same bishop who forced her onto a flight to Chicago, and he's the one who was a trailblazer and made the decision to ordain the first woman priests. It had not been done before. So it was amazing, it was fantastic. But you can imagine the journey of a woman in a man's world, being a trailblazer. It sounds amazing, but you can imagine the tribulations, the hardships that she went through, that the 3 of them went through. But I admire the way they went through it so much that they inspired thousands, who are now female priests after them. I feel like they did it with grace, with dignity, and also they wouldn't have done it if they didn't have the right support system, which was the bishop, and my mom had my father. So that is what my prayer was, for me to be in the lives of the children, provide them a place of grace, but also give them all the opportunities that they would need to be safe, to be loved and happy and nurtured and educated. And I would be that we, the system that's behind them, would provide them with all they need for that. And their job as children is to be children. You know, to grow up, to do well in school, to behave well, and to study hard. And then with those two things in place, they can be anything that they can be. Yeah, so that was the precept behind the name, Grace.
Yes.
Then Villa, I think, you know, it's an Italian beautiful home. And I always knew that I wanted us to be in a home that was beautiful, because I knew that I myself needed to feel like I like where I am with the children. And then also because if I'm not happy, I mean, if mommy isn't happy, you know, then if the environment isn't happy, then the children will also echo what you give out. So the history of the home, while I was in Massachusetts, we had different groups of friends. So first of all, Boston, I don't know if Jackson, you've met the Ugandans there. There's a fantastic Ugandan community in Boston. So that was great. But then there were also different communities. And one of them was a group of friends that we had met in our church. And we used to gather, I think once a month, and we would rotate homes. So everybody would bring food, and, you know, the host would provide the food, and then the guests would come with the movie, because it was a movie night. So, and just full disclosure, so they were all Americans. So we were the only Africans in that group. So this evening we were hosting, and when I say we, I mean my brother Apollo, Jackson, Apollo, your friend, my brother Apollo and I, yes. So these people go to the movie place, Blockbuster, to rent a movie. Don't laugh, because I know Blockbuster is now extinct because of Netflix. So they bring the most Ugandan or African thing they can find, which was a documentary called Invisible Children. So if any of the people watching have heard of it, I know Jackson, you know it very well.
Yes.
It was a documentary done by some American kids that depicted the atrocities carried out by Joseph Kony and they were focusing on the children. So they were called Invisible Children because these kids every night would pack whatever they could sleep on from their homes and walk to public spaces so that they would sleep in a safe place. Because if they did not, chances were very high that this Kony, who was a rebel, and with his mercenaries, would abduct them, because Kony used children for his army, to build his army. He would kidnap boys to be the strong, you know, in the army, and then girls to cook for the army, and God knows, you know, become the brides or whatever. And they would abduct little ones from 7, 11, 12-year-olds.
Jolie started telling us about these children who live in Gulu and commute to the town to sleep in the streets every night.
Oh, they don't sleep in hotels, they sleep in verandas. In the veranda, in the bus park.
She said we should go document them. And so we did. We arrived at a bus park to the sound of kids. Thousands and thousands of kids, without an adult in sight, except for a guy with an AK-47 strapped to his back.
So they were called the night commuters in Uganda because they commuted every night. And this had been going on at the point when I watched the documentary for about 20 years. So at that point, it was the longest going, I don't know what you want to call it, within a country, you know, where, anyway, so I watched it. We watched it in our home. And, you know, you can imagine the horror, the sadness, because these were kids who they were showing. It was just heart-wrenching. But beyond that, it was also learning for me, because even though I was from Uganda and I knew about the night commuters, I did not know the depth of what was happening. And you know how a visual can really bring things to light and really move you in a way that just hearing about it here and there does. So I remember I was it was awful. But on top of that, I was ashamed. I think that's the right word, because everyone turns to us and says, oh my goodness, what is this? And I honestly didn't have answers. So here I am, and you know how I've said I love kids, but then how come I didn't know much about our own kids, what was happening with them, to them within my own country? So that pretty much was a point that changed the trajectory, that changed my life. It changed but I didn't know it then. So we flipped the DVD and got the contacts on the back and contacted the people behind the documentary. Turns out they had an organization called the Invisible Children. What they did was, through this documentary, create awareness for what was happening, because they believed that the more people who knew about it, the more of an outrage there would be, and somehow the problem would be addressed. So they were thrilled to have Ugandans who wanted to help. So long story short, my brother and I became advocates for the Invisible Children in New England. So it was a very different time for me, because I stopped hanging out and partying, and it stopped. My life ceased to be just a light life, of work and hanging out with friends and, just light. It like a lot of my life became about this advocacy. And I was still young. I was just, pretty much at the end of college and beginning of work. But I started going around to churches. These Invisible Children trained us on how to talk. And I hated public speaking. I think, Jackson, I've told you this before. I hated, well, even now I get nervous-ish. Yeah, I get nervous. Even today I was a bit nervous coming here. But in those days, the paper would shake and I would reach them blank. What's my name again? And that extent of nervous. But I remember saying, if I didn't do it, then who would? If we didn't do it, who would speak up for these children? So that gave me a courage, a courage to do what to go ahead. And then I started getting into it. And I remember we met, one of my highlights was meeting the late Senator Kennedy, Edward Kennedy, because he was our senator then. Mm-hmm. And in the end, he actually wrote a letter commending me, which is framed in my office. And so in the end, after everything, well, I guess you can go and read more about what happened with the whole situation with Joseph Kony. So he's not in Uganda anymore, and Uganda started going through a process called the rehabilitation, like when all the kids were being brought back and rehabilitated. So I started going home now at this point, because now at that point I had graduated, I was working, and I would go home and spend holidays at home, the usual, what we always do when we go to Uganda. But then I would spend part of it in northern Uganda, being involved in that part of helping the kids who were returning, former child soldiers, former war brides, and help them re-enter the community. And you can imagine the stories, you can imagine, the angst even in the community, seeing kids who had killed the people, like kids who were considered murderers now being brought back into the community. So it was a tough period. That's when I started developing and saying, I want to do something that helps children who have been through tough situations get back on their feet. So I would go back to Boston, get back to my life there, and just gradually, not suddenly, but I was not happy. I would leave Uganda, crying on the plane, like I'm sobbing all the way to Boston, get back to work, and then I'm not giving what I'm supposed to be giving to the children who I was supposed to be serving. And when you find yourself at that point, you just know that it's time to quit, it's time to stop, because the children in Boston deserved, to to be with, with people who were giving them 100%.
Yes.
And then also myself, I deserve to, I think it was also a gift to know that this is not what brings me joy and this is what brings me fulfillment, So I actually considered myself, I said, you know what, you're lucky, Ruth. You now see where you want to go. Now, what steps are you going to take to make sure you get to where you want to go?
And that started a journey that took you to Cavalry Hills, and you started a home that brought girls to a sanctuary before school, after school, skill training, love and care that is so rare. We come from an extended family of love and care. But as we've gone through so much history and a lot of upheavals in our countries for different reasons, there's this disintegration that leaves girls suffering. And the place where you take them is indeed a sanctuary. I've been there, I've met the girls, I've seen you, I saw you with the kids, I've seen you with Justine from Nyaka, who you hosted here in Boston, where you are still here. And so tell us what you do at
Grace Villa.
And why you
May I also mention that that Justine part with you and Nyaka also are part of my big inspiration for starting what I started. Because through you, I got to spend time with a Ugandan child, which was new for me, and a child who came from a tough background. And I actually watched her evolve because of nurturing and targeted care. And I remember it made me think, my goodness, so a kid can actually transform, if they're nurtured the right way. And then I also, Jackson, there's something about you that is also inspirational, because you always are willing to share, you're one of those. I'd never met someone who had an organization who wanted someone else to start an organization, and who would say, this is what you need to do. We need people like you, because there are many people who think that you need to keep it, you need to be the only one, which honestly, at this point, I am same as you, and I think you inspired me to be that way as well. I know I'm embarrassing you, so let me go back to to the question. Grace Villa is a home, first and foremost. It's a safe space for girls who have been through, so the girls who come to us, the different situations that they come, from our early marriage, girls who have been abused, girls who are homeless, who have been on the street, left on the street. So every child who comes to us is brought to us by the police or by the probation officers in Kabale. In Uganda, a probation officer is someone, is the government entity that looks after the welfare of children.
Yes.
So, and then we also take in kids who are brought by concerned community members, like the local councilman. But if they come through local councilman or the church or something, they still have to go through probation to vet and make sure that they actually need to be in our home. So last year we received a certification that made us an approved home. It's a new status that you can't look after children in a home unless you are an approved home. So yes. It's a very rigorous process, which is great. I'm actually glad they're doing it, but it was tough, very, very tough. And so today we're the only such home in Kabale that is allowed to take in girls. So what we do is, like I mentioned, provide them with a safe space. Every single child is in school. Every single child has to learn a trade. You talked about vocational training, and every child has to be in either sports or music and dance. Other interventions are food and nutrition. So one program that we started about 7 years ago is called Wateka. And Wateka is what is like, bon appetit, is it? Oh, no, it's what you say to a cook when they've cooked well.
Thank
so
you.
Here it's a... Thank you for cooking. But you have to, if you don't say it, if you eat and you like the food and you don't say it, then you're rude.
That's true.
Yeah.
In our culture.
Yeah. So in our culture, yeah. So we named it Wateka, and Wateka was started to feed school kids, not only Graceville kids, but all school kids, because a hungry kid can't. I mean, if your belly is empty, how are you going to concentrate in school? How are you going to even retain any information? How will you even stay awake in class? So we started Wateka to feed kids who, and it's actually a situation here where many kids can even go 2 days without having something to eat. So our other programs, I love talking about our sports, like football, because it was an unexpected thing that we started just because we had a big field, which was supposed to be a food field, but we turned it into a sports field because our girls who liked football, if they would go to the public field and the boys would show up, then you're kicked off. Or if the boys sit there and watch you, they're laughing, jeering because your skirt is flying and things like that. So girls love football, but they didn't have a safe space to play it. So we created that for girls in the community, not just for Graceville girls. And what's fantastic about football is that we actually ended up becoming good and winning, first friendlies, would win friendlies. Then we said, oh, let's try a tournament here. We probably won't win. We said winning. We went on a winning streak where we were we were known all over the district. We have like 5 trophies and stuff, and that was fantastic. But then when we moved, Jackson, that we were evicted. Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember.
From our home. Yeah. So our new home doesn't have that dedicated space. So we kind of pulled back on the soccer because of that. But now the girls play golf, which is great because we're right near a golf course, Makanga Hill, and the local golf club really loves our kids and decided to embrace us. They gave us everything, all the clubs and all that. And on top of that, they give us training. And recently we had our first golf tournament, a Graceville Golf Cup, in conjunction with our local Kabale Sports Club. And we actually won a few trophies. And then we also play tennis. So those are the 3 sports that we have. What's great with sports is we're actually also seeing the girls getting sports scholarships, which means, it lessens our financial burden. Yeah. And then one other program that I want to mention is tailoring. We have a Chikazi, which means little lady, the young lady, Chikazi tailoring program. And this started, interestingly, because we had hundreds of kids, because we have 215 girls right now. Mm-hmm. We had hundreds of girls to clothe with school uniforms, and it was expensive. So we decided, why don't we buy a big swatch of fabric and hire a tailor and bring him in the compound with his sewing machine. He measures the girls and makes their uniforms. So the girls sat with him because they were curious, and then he would say, okay, you cut these, show them how to cut, show them, and they actually really got into it. And we ended up hiring him to become a teacher at home. And he brought his own, that one machine. And then we had a group from one of the telecom companies called Airtel came to visit Graceville. Yes. Brought by a mutual friend, Canon Bruce Cherere, brought them home. And they saw what we were doing, and they ended up giving us, I think, like 10 sewing machines. And that started an entire empire of sewing. Yes. So now it attributes to a big percentage of our budget, I think 30% right now, the tailoring. And since then, we've been empowered by other places, like we have something called Uganda Industrial Research Institute. Yes. So when people ask, has government helped? We don't get help financially, but sometimes, like, they gave us industrial sewing machines. So our program has really, actually, almost everything I wear now, even what I'm wearing today, is made by the girls. Everything in the house, if you look around, our curtains, our chairs, like almost everything. And we focus on our African fabric, and then we make things that are beautiful out of our African fabric. So you are wearing a dress made by the girls? Yes. Yes, wow. I am. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. And just to go back to the
Uganda Industrial Training, they provided you industrial machines. So you are able to do big jobs now and do them faster, thanks to Professor Jessica, who heads that program.
Yes.
Many of our listeners know he lived
Professor Charles Kwesiga. Yes. And on top of the machines, he also trains the girls. He takes cohorts to Namamve, which is the where they're based, and they have a hostel and everything, and trains them for about 3, 4, 5 months in something textiles management or some fancy name. So the girls are actually empowered, and they are now trainers.
So when you look in the eyes of the girls you work with, what are your dreams for these girls? I mean, you have 200 plus now, so the numbers keep growing, but I can imagine the last time I visited you in the other home, I visited both homes, but the first home, there were fewer, you knew all their names, you knew all their dreams, you knew all their struggles. As they grow and you see, I know some, and you can highlight also where some of them are. I'm not going to say the one who got on the plane and went somewhere, but you can say, what are your dreams and aspirations for beautiful girls?
So in the home, we only, the maximum we ever have is 30 children in the house, and but then the other children are in our programs, or children who have been through the home, gone on to be reunited with their families, because that's actually our goal, to make sure that every child who comes through, we try to find them homes, reunite them with their parents, or with foster families, or with community, people who are looking to look after children. I still know every kid that's in the house, and I think, but you're right, 200 plus is a big number. And a good thing is that we make sure that every child comes home for our programs, for things like debate, for film school. We have Villawood, a school where we're teaching the kids film, and we're releasing our first movie in July. Yes, because our celebration of 10 years, we hit 10 years this year. So I mentioned that every single child is in school, so we really push education. And we feel blessed because we're seeing many of our kids excel academically, not all, not even half, really excelling, but a good number of the girls are doing very, very well in school. And this is inspirational even to the younger sisters. So as you know, in PLE, which is primary leaving exams, the best score you can get is 4. And we had a 4, which was fantastic this year.
Hey, that's good.
And then it was very amazing. And then all the girls were in very good first grade, except one child. How that helps us is then we are able to get bursaries or scholarships for the kids. And then, like I said, it also inspires their younger sisters. One of our girls who has been doing really well is called Chiravo. She's actually home. She came home for holidays last night, so she's home now for a few months. So she is in Africa Leadership University right now in Mauritius, and I think you know Fred Swanica Jackson.
Yes, I do.
Started this fantastic education journey for children. So Chiravo was actually brilliant right from when we first got her when she was little. She's from a place called Muyebe. And in high school, she did well in senior 4, well enough to go to a school called Immaculate Heart, which is one of our best high schools. Gets to Immaculate Heart and keeps winning every year. And at the end of her senior 6, she topped the school and actually topped the district and got into Makerere on full scholarship. But we applied for her all over the world as much as we could. So I always do that for all the children. And she got into 3 universities, and one was actually in South Carolina. And then she also got into Africa Leadership University. So I'm very proud of her because she researched and actually chose Africa Leadership University because of what it fit what her vision for her life was.
Yes.
And she's a student leader And she got there her first year, and she decided to run for vice president, and we all cheered her on and we said, yay! But I honestly didn't think, because remember, it's Africa, that school targets future leaders, even in its name.
Yes.
Right. And she won, and well, thank God I didn't voice my concerns, but I was really, really happy that she won. On top of that, she worked in the cafeteria. Once upon a time, Grace Villa had a coffee shop called Kwan, which was we had a coffee shop / museum / everything, guest house. And she worked there. When she was there, she was fantastic. I mean, that's when we actually made proper profits when she was there. So she gets to school in Mauritius and finds, like in most colleges, you can work, right? So the most coveted job that people wanted was to work in the cafeteria in the school campus, because it was easier to get to, and then you're going to get free good food, and it paid well. So this whole line of kids applied for that position, and she won. And she says she won because she had been working cafeteria for a year at Grace Villa. So she gets this job and saves her money. We don't know why she's saving. She's not buying new outfits. She's not going out with her friends to the mall and all that. And she comes home last holiday, not this one, but the one before, and asks me to go with her. She wanted to show me something. And she takes me to a place called Nyachijumba. Is it Nyachijumba? They are near Nyachijumba. And shows me land and says, this is our land, Grace Villa.
She bought land?
She bought land for us.
Wow.
And a beautiful plot of land, and in a very nice place. Like, it's accessible. And the main purpose behind her buying it was because she wanted us. We sometimes struggle for food. It was part of our, and she wanted us to expand our cultivation as a home. Yes. So that same holiday, she planted with her sisters. They planted food, which things are just sprouting. They started sprouting about 2 months ago. So we've been harvesting from land bought for us by one of our own children. I think it's a very beautiful thing. And you can imagine how my heart felt. So
after 10 years, I think you mentioned 10 years briefly. I want to go back to that 10-year mark. Doing this work and do it for 10 years, congratulations to you, to all supporters, to everybody who has participated, contributed, gifts of cash, gifts of in-kind, uniforms, computers. I follow everything that goes on. Apollo keeps me posted, and by the way, Apollo and I share the birthday of September 3rd. So every
you're twins.
We are twins. Every year we are running a fundraiser for this. On our birthday, Apollo is running this. What are the plans for celebrations of 10 years? And once you finish telling us the plans, what do you envision for the next 10 years? So it's huge for us. We're just so excited that we hit. I mean, I feel old, but besides that, I feel very proud that we've hit a whole decade, because I moved here in 2013. So we decided, like you just said, thank you for highlighting the amazing people that have surrounded us and uplifted us. And I think one of the best things is how the community has uplifted us. The locals, people in Uganda, are who our children now call their uncles and aunties, because of how involved people are in our children's lives. In fact, every single program that you've seen, like even the tailoring, even our dance and all that, the film school, behind them are people who volunteer 100% to our kids. Even the bakery, I didn't mention that. All people who volunteer. So we said, what can we do to celebrate? We must involve the community. We must involve people who have supported us. But then we also said, and whatever we do should highlight our journey, should highlight the need for, why people like us are necessary, us and all other organizations like us, Nyaka and everything. We want to spotlight, and then also open up so that, because people hear about us, even but they don't know many people haven't really experienced what we do. So we said we need to do things that things that will. When you are done telling us about the 10 years, we want to see them, because you want to meet the kids? We'll meet them after you finish telling us the next 10 years. Yeah, thank you. That would be great.
there outside. So we're planning first. So it's going to be 5 days, 5 fantastic days in Kabale. So everybody who's listening, you're welcome to Kabale. You know, we still have time. It's in July 7th, starting on July 7th and ending on July 12th. So Karibu, welcome to Kabale. So on the 7th, we'll be doing registration, welcoming everybody in. We have a prayer walk where we're going to walk around very purposefully to the different organizations and institutions that have supported us, from the local supermarket that sometimes says it's okay, you'll pay next month, and then when we come to pay, they say forget the payment, to the clinic that has just, you know, you can imagine how much healthcare we need. We have this clinic called Medicus that, so the police station, the courthouse, you know, so we're going to go and light a candle at each one of these and say a prayer with them. And then after that, we'll all walk home and have a prayer breakfast at Grace Villa. So you're all welcome for that. So the prayer breakfast will be beautiful. We'll just pray over the home and just dedicate the next 5 days to the Lord. And then after the prayer breakfast, we open the gate and we have an open house where we're going to, so the girls are really, they've been planning this for, I think, since last year, December. We will have different stations where they'll showcase the different things that we do. So you'll get to experience debate. You'll get to experience the films. You know, we have some documentaries under our belt that we've done. So we'll have a movie theater tent. Then we'll have the baking, the dance. So it will all be us just showing. And then you get to see the girls' rooms and not my room, but the girls' rooms and everything. So that's the 7th. Then on the 8th, this is now the fun day. We have a marathon. So you're all invited. Jackson, you run. You're a runner. So we're expecting you to show us all how it's done. And so we have a 21K, a 10K, and a 5K. They all start at Kabale Stadium and one of the roots wines by the shores of Lake Bunyonyi, which, as you know, is Waka. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Is that from the New York Marathon?
The 50th New York Marathon. So yes,
wow.
We've done it and we can do it again, Kabale people.
It looks epic. I wish we had such stuff. We're planning on like giving baskets or something.
That's the beginning. Remember, yours is the first one. These guys took them 50 years to get to this level.
50.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're at 10, 40 more to go.
Yes, so we have that marathon, and then because we know, although I shouldn't say because now you won't come, but anyway, for those who can't come, we also have a virtual option. So you're welcome to visit our website to find out more details. It's gracevilla.org, or even Jackson can share it with you. So the marathon is exciting, and then also the 40 days, we're doing 40 days around the world for Grace Villa. So this is a virtual 40-day challenge, which starts on the 30th of this month, which is May, and ends on the actual day of so the last run is on the day of the marathon, which is 7th July. So Jackson, if you can commit to doing 5K of anything every day, and as a collective, it will, if we get around 200 plus people doing this 5K a day, by marathon day, we would have done 200 kilometers, which is roughly the circumference of the world. We're actually literally running around the world or walking around the world for the girls who need it, children who need it.
So hold on a second, Ruth. Where do people put their 5Ks every day when they run? You have like a WhatsApp group or?
We have everything. A Facebook, so if you go Grace Villa Kabale Facebook, we also have a Nike run, like a Nike group, a Nike run group. If you look for Grace Villa or Nike run. Okay. Yes. No, it's called Grace Villa Nike run around the world.
So I would encourage you to connect with Kiza Kimbugwe, who is connected with people in Kampala, Alex, who do 100 days of running, and Robert Kabshanga is part of that. Rutachigwa is part of that. I have been doing 3 kilometers every day since December 12th. So adding on yours as Grace Villa within that same group is not. In fact, when I'm done today, I will have to do my 3 kilometers. Yes. So I want to do it for 365 days. So you are the right person, and I will have all. So I will start today. It starts today?
Yeah. No, on the 30th. I will remind you. And also, if you sign up now, then you'll also get reminders.
All right. I will sign up and I'll continue with my 3K every day. 40 days. That's like Jesus.
I like that. Yes, see, many things.
Next 10 years, what are your plans for the next 10 years?
The house that we bought has a space that's undeveloped next to it. We have an undeveloped plot.
Yes.
So right now, if you ask to see the kids, so when I walk you around, you're going to see where we practice from. So we practice under an avocado tree, and we love it. It's cute. It's lovely for visuals. Like when I take pictures, it looks beautiful. But you can imagine when it rains, what happens. When it's sunny, like they stop dancing to pour water on the ground because of the dust that's raising. So we need a dedicated space, and we're trying to create that in that section. We also need, so basically we're building a community area, which includes a library, a place for showing or, for a gathering space, and a resource center. So we're building the Grace Villa community now. The golf tournament that we have, the marathon that we're going to have, the movie premiere we'll have. We have that trip to Rwenzori also around in that whole July, in the 5 days of GV10. Everything that we're doing, even every single person who runs, and we're encouraging fundraising running as well. Every penny that we get is going towards us having that Grace Villa Community Resource Center and library. So we have a library, as you know, right now, but it's in our garage because we didn't have a car. So right now the car is sleeping outside while the books are in the library. And the library is also, the garage is also the office space for our administrators. So we really, we're blessed. We have a beautiful home for the children, a good, safe home for the children. But we also need to grow and have space for our offices, space to do what we're supposed to do to help our home grow. So that is our next step, Grace Villa.
Very good. One last question before you take us outside to meet the children. After years of working and serving and taking care of children, what advice would you give your younger self? If you were 18, 21, once again, what advice would you give yourself?
So I've been through much, clearly, because I'm old. But I'm happy with the journey, the ups, the downs, the good side, the bad side. But when I look now, the one thing, I think I even mentioned it the other day, one thing that I wish I had done is be more intentional with learning. Well, I would like to know more about project development, business administrating. I'm not good at I love what I do. I'm awful at fundraising. I'm not like you, Jackson. It's something that makes me uncomfortable. And even when I do it, I'm not as effective as I should be. And yet I need to be that for the children, because that's my job. My job is to make sure that this home not just survives, but actually grows for their sake. So I would probably have I would have come better equipped in that aspect. Yeah. So I think that's that's when I think about what I wish to have done differently, that's one thing. But other than that, I'm happy with how my life has gone, and the good things and the bad things, because the bad things have been lessons, and then the good things have just spurred me on. I feel like I'm blessed to be surrounded by a good family, and not just my immediate family, but even the extended family, my parents, relatives, and then the new family that I have, which is the Grace Villa family, which has been phenomenal. And I know that we wouldn't exist if it weren't for people like you guys that's in our lives.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you met the one and only one, Kendeje, who was born on a plane in her dreams, but who has lived in so many countries, studied in so many schools, has faced obstacles, but had been surrounded with love by the late father, James from Kanungu, remember, and mother from Kabale, who is still alive and still participates in her in Grace Vera, the name which she bears, and continues to mold and mentor the girls in this home. Grace is a beautiful name. Ruth is a beautiful name, both biblical. And so in a combination of you two trailblazers, thank you for taking care of the girls in that region. I know people who watch will say, when are you going to go in northern Uganda? When are you going in Bujiri? We do this work and people want it expanded. So scaring is something else we can talk about. But it's my pleasure now to get a little tour of Grace Vera, maybe also meet some of the girls who are there. It's a treat. Usually we sit down and have conversations, but now we have an extraordinary opportunity to be able to see some of the things happening. When that is done, we'll close up, and we thank you and appreciate you making time to share with the TJK people. And this record will be on YouTube so anyone can see it and learn, relearn, or unlearn. Thank you, Ruth.
Yeah. Thank you again, Jack, very, very much for this opportunity. How long do I have with the kids?
Maybe 5-10 minutes.
Okay. So maybe can this turn around? Yes, it can. So we're in our dining room right now. I'm gonna take you out. That was our wall of all our events that have happened. So I hope it's tidy.
It's all right.
Yeah, that's the hi girls. Yeah, some of the girls in I think they're studying. What are you guys doing? English. Okay. Bye.
Yeah.
So
Your
this
car
is
outside.
Yeah, we finally got a car, as you can see, and I haven't told them we're going to them, so maybe I should have prepared them.
Oh, let's surprise.
Hi everyone.
That's the avocado tree.
Yeah, that's the avocado tree. Hi everyone. Hi. so guys, hey, all right. Hi, Susanna.
Oh.
Hi girl, how come you're not dancing? All right. Yeah. Girls, do you want to introduce yourselves? What's your name?
My name is Siride.
What class are you in?
I'm in Form 4.
From what school?
Secondary school.
My name is Natunda Mariamu. Ebenezer Christian School. Class.
And who's that? You're back. Jackson, she goes to school in where? What? In Kanungu.
Kanungu.
My name is Sahabwe Sharon. I'm in senior 3. I study from Gachinan Secondary School in Kanu. Yay!
Wonderful. I'm from Kanungu.
Anyone else? Who can I interview? Agnes, come and say hello. And tell us what's your name?
My name is Agnes.
Come closer. Agnes, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a physician.
A what?
A physician.
A physician.
Doctor.
Okay. And this Agnes is our current Miss who? Miss Grace Villa. Yeah. Anyone
Oh,
else here? And this is the outgoing Miss Grace Villa.
outgoing Miss Grace Villa. Well, this is beautiful.
How are you? What's your name? What's your name? Okay, how old are you? Why you She has forgotten her age.
That's all right.
Yeah.
And there are young ones running around, learning.
Yes, there's always someone running around.
Thank you
All
for
right.
showing us around.
Oh, and we have Susan here who's back from Kampala where she's studying. Susan, what are you studying?
I'm studying welding and fabrication.
Welding and fabrication.
Welding
You
and
recently.
fabrication. That's my
Yes.
love.
What can you make?
I can make a gate, window,
Hmm.
and sliding doors.
Sliding
Are you almost
doors.
and sliding doors? Are you almost graduating?
Yeah,
When?
this is my last year.
Your last year, and soon you'll be here making all the windows and sliding doors in Kavali, right? Yeah, and she's a brilliant girl. She's doing very well.
That's
Golden. How are you?
Fine, sure.
Yeah, you happy to be home for holidays?
Yes.
You are in boarding school where?
At Bishop International.
How old are you?
16 years.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be an engineer.
Are you studying hard for it?
Yes.
Jackson, what should I ask her?
That's beautiful, wonderful. And does she have any siblings?
Golden, do you have any brothers or sisters?
No, only child. Wow.
Oh, you have. Who are all these? And these your sisters?
Biological. She went biological. All right.
And there's Brenda and Martha. You are going to see Brenda soon in a movie, an international movie.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
called Unheard, which was released this year. Yeah, she was that. So okay, and one last person. Who is the last person? What's your name?
My name is Celia.
She's a twin.
Twin. I am Salongo. I have twin daughters.
Are you Salongo? Hey, you are Salongo, yes. The
Yes.
father of twins. And there's Gloria.
My
Sheila is home for holidays. Sheila is going to be an IT guru when she grows up.
that's good.
Okay, Kale, let's say bye to everyone
All right.
and we go back inside. Oh, and that's the space beyond the tree that is ours.
That's the Future Research Center and Performance Arts.
Yes. Bye.
Very good. Well, the home is vibrant. The girls are doing well.
Thank you.
Somebody is going to ask you after they watch this episode, what about boys? 'Cause
What
my-
about what?
boys, boys, boys?
Ah, okay.
And I have several graduate students from Nyaka who keep saying there's so many girls opportunities, there's so many girls empowerment. We also need boys, and my answer to them is you can launch one and
Yes.
started, like you said earlier, encourage people to, when you see the problem, to try to find the solutions for that problem. And now that I am here at Harvard, every time I pass JFK, school that ask not what the government can do
Yes.
for you, ask what you can do for your government. But they just abbreviated and ask not in big
Wow.
red letters. So as people come to you and go, now we want to go to Karamoja, now we want to say ask not. I can do for you. Ask what you can do, because we all have the power to do something.